latest in college esports from the students that play.
Go behind the scenes at the schools that game.
The only place where esports are
on campus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of Checkpoint XP on campus. I am your host, Norris Howard, here from the quarantine bunker known as my apartment, alongside our wonderful hosts from the squad at UNLV. We got Daniel Agbuya, we got Jacob Brothers, and we also, if you haven't noticed, we have a friend of the show returning right now, Hillary Phan. She's the player support coordinator for UCI. Our very first guest when we first started this show, she was our very first guest, and she returns today on this week's Checkpoint XP on campus. Hillary, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I know a lot of people are struggling during these times, but as an introvert, I'm thriving, enjoying working from home.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I've been hearing a lot about that, about a lot of people, especially gamers, who are kind of taking advantage of this sort of, I don't want to say opportunity, but this really weird time in human history of being at home. But you're in charge of a whole esports team, a whole collegiate esports team. What has that experience been like, knowing that everybody's essentially been scattered to the wind and back home because of coronavirus?
It's definitely been, I'd say, really scary and confusing the first few weeks of everyone figuring out the situation. We're just waiting on news from the university. Are we going to close? Are we going to stay open? They had actually asked us to stay open before we were all on lockdown, to be this sort of beacon of hope for students, because people can still play games during this time. So we're going to take measures like a customer every other computer we'd wipe down every single time anyone got up and left, just to provide something for people to focus on and enjoy, and still be able to interact with one another. Obviously, that was no longer possible, but we've still been working with campus to try and provide some things for the students. So we've dramatically upscaled our intramural program, for example. So providing a bunch of different game tournaments for students, as well as some for faculty and staff. So we're actually putting together a Scrabble intramural, possibly Tetris. But yeah, just really trying to work with campus leaders and find things for people to do right now.
Hillary, can you clarify something for me? So does that mean UCI has gone full remote? Because here in UNLV, we've gone full remote classes now. Yeah,
we went full remote probably, I think this is our fourth week of working remote. So the entire spring quarter is all online classes. So we had to do a lot of work figuring out, we need to understand student situations, where they were, if they were safe or not, if they had resources they need, and then how to engage with them while they're all online, making sure to, it's hard for people to work from home and having no real schedule, and understanding that it's especially difficult for young people. So providing them some sort of structure, providing them some sort of resources.
Now, obviously, you're in charge of making sure these students have been, well-being, both physically and mentally. What kind of concerns of your students have been coming to you, saying, since this whole pandemic kind of went to full force?
I've seen a variety of actions and reactions. So I think when we were first starting to hear about it, I had students already trying to stock up at Costco, and already talking about quarantining themselves, partially out of real concern, but partially out of just oh, this is the thing to do. It's kind of funny. It's kind of extreme. As things progressed, people did take it more seriously. And I think most of the concerns come from staff. We're always thinking about our student staff, how are they going to get paid and afford rent? How are we going to make sure that our students are keeping up with their academics? How do we check in on their home situations, their families? What about our international students who, we have a couple who are Chinese international students, and they obviously can't go home. So making sure that they're taken care of while they're in another country, right? So I think there was much more concern on the staff side of things, trying to think about all these different aspects. A lot of students, I think, didn't have all the information, weren't keeping up as much as we were. It was definitely a big topic for campus leadership. I think a lot of them were struggling with once this all came out, it was finals week. So they were freaking out about, okay, is my final online or not? Some professors were having the finals a week earlier so that it could still happen on campus. Just a lot of confusion. And that was the main brunt of, I think, their questions. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm hearing a lot about, sort of the academic side, obviously, in terms of you want your team and you want the students on campus to be able to be safe, to be able to continue with their studies, to be able to take care of all the things that a normal student should be able to do, even in a remote situation. But UCI is, I don't want to go out on a limb, but UCI is a powerhouse school, at least in the world of collegiate esports. It's very well known. People look to it to kind of gauge where the rest of college esports is heading, or is at least one of those types of schools. But UCI hasn't necessarily been participating in a ton of stuff, even though there's not a lot going on right now. Is the makeup of the student body a part of that, or the makeup of your team a part of why you guys haven't necessarily participated in a lot of stuff, or is it just, this was you guys' schedule already?
I think this has historically been our schedule. We obviously prioritize the game developer run tournaments. If there are other tournaments that are interesting, we have to evaluate on a few different things. So whether or not we even have the time to commit to it. Already players usually spend in season about 10 hours a week dedicated to the team. So practice, VOD review, things like that. So adding another tournament on top of that is always a huge consideration on like, okay, do they conflict with times? Do we have enough time to practice? We have to think about the competition and whether or not it is worth our time. If it doesn't look like there are good competitors, it may not be as useful as finding a really good scrim, for example, or we may give that opportunity to the JV team if it is a good fit for them. We also have to think about, I personally don't think about pricing, but I know it's a big thing for students. So they also want to know, like, what am I going to get out of this after I put in all of this effort? So sometimes there are external tournaments that we'll compete in. Another thing that sways the favor is if it's run by someone nearby and local, if there's a LAN involved that we can realistically go to, or if, a UC reaches out to us, hey, we're doing this thing as a fellow UC, do you want to come by, right? So those sorts of things also impact, but usually it's schedule constraints.
We're talking to Hillary Phan. She's the player support coordinator for UCI, University of California, Irvine, a major school. And, one thing I definitely want to ask is, seeing how coronavirus has affected just the world of esports in general, how do you think this will change the collegiate scene? I mean, the collegiate scene has already traditionally played a lot of games online. Do you think that there will be pro scenes that'll be almost looking at college as a model, or do you think college still sort of exists on its own island?
Yeah, we are kind of a secondary concern because they were like, okay, we have to move CLL finals because we have to move MSI and the stream team is the same. That's what I was going to say. So they do have shared resources. And so obviously the priority is going to be to get the professional level running as best as they can. So already CLL had been pushed back because the stream team was sort of occupied. Now it's been officially announced to be canceled. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened to many other leagues as they're prioritizing their pro level things. In terms of changing and looking at collegiate and just how it's been impacting, I think people are looking at collegiate in terms of how can we come together in this time? How can we rely on our communities? There's been a lot of great content creation. There's this really huge Discord that put in a intercollegiate game night. So invited schools from all across the country and just had a huge gathering of people just playing games together from different schools. So I think that's the part where people are looking at collegiate, but not necessarily as in like, oh, this will feed into the pro level, or this is what we can copy at the pro level. Yeah.
So last question for me here. So, just continue on the esports. Where can we be seeing USCI esports competing? Are there still upcoming events you guys are going to be participating in? Anything we should look forward to?
We are looking for them, but again, as as CLAW has canceled today, I expect it to ripple effect to a lot of other things that we're kind of debating. Okay, how can we go fully online, or does this still work? So with that announcement, I do expect to see other cancellations. I know the league team is looking at the big tournament. I think our Overwatch team is looking at spring rally that people have to vote for. But yeah, just trying to see whatever is out there. But no guarantees at this time.
Yeah. Hillary Phan, player support coordinator for the University of California at Irvine. A friend of the show, like I said, our very first guest returning to talk a little bit about what the coronavirus has done to change their situation out there at UCI. Hillary, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me. And I hope you and everyone watching stays safe and healthy.
Same to you. We're going to have more coming up on Checkpoint XP on campus, where we're going to be talking about the Overwatch Collegiate Clash and who was able to take advantage of the void that the University of Utah left with their bye week. So make sure you guys are staying glued to your streams and your podcasts. We got more coming up.
Hey, I'm Izzy, and today we're going to talk about Easter eggs. Now, you can't talk about Easter eggs without talking about Atari's Adventure. Released in 1979, Adventure is often regarded as the first Easter egg. During this time, developers weren't getting credit for their work, so one developer decided to sneak his name into the game. Players found a key that unlocked a room where they saw the message created by Warren Robinette. Robinette's determination to get his well-deserved credit coined the term Easter egg. Since then, other developers began hiding their own elaborate Easter eggs in games and other media. Easter eggs are just a small part of any game or media, but they add an extra layer of adventure and connection between the people who work on them and the people who find them. That's all we have for today. See you next time.
Watch the rest. Watch the rest.
Get close to that portal. Donut side. They're in.
Let's go! Wow! Let's go! That's what I'm talking about. Teamwork, baby. Yeah. He's one shot, bro.
Carl, heal up and then go check.
Oh,
we won. Let's go.
Let's go, boys. That was a huge pop-off game.
It's just raid.
Oh,
Ed, let's go, baby.
Holy, you popped off, Egypt.
Hey, welcome back to Checkpoint XP on campus, your number one resource for collegiate esports and the world beyond. Right now, we're going to head right into a conversation with the new head coach of Oakland University's esports program. That's Carl Leone. He has a lineage of working with a lot of schools in the Midwest in terms of setting up esports program, also a former player as well. So here's our conversation with Carl Leone. Welcome back to Checkpoint XP on campus, your number one resource for collegiate esports and the world beyond. Your host, Norris Howard here. And we have a very special guest on the show right now, Carl Leone. He's just been named as the head coach of Oakland University's esports program. And, you know, we've talked to Carl before. We're doing a little bit of a project alongside Oakland University, but we wanted to make sure that we got Carl on the show specifically to talk about his vision and what the future holds for Oakland University's esports program. So, Coach Carl, now officially, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to share the news and go ahead and get started with the program.
Yeah, and so for those of you out there who are unfamiliar with Coach Carl, Carl, could you give us a little background,
Sure.
Of your history in esports?
Sure. So I play League of Legends competitively at Robert Morris University. I went there on scholarship in 2014 and competed for 4 years for their team. Also helped with some of the assistant coach work there at Robert Morris just towards the end, just to run things for the program. After I graduated 2018, I went to Aquinas College in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They started their inaugural program in 2019, and I coached their League of Legends team for the full year. And we just wrapped up recently due to the coronavirus. So a bit crazy what's been going on, but I have had a great experience through esports. I'm telling you, for me, it's just been absolutely life-changing. And to be able to move on into a full-blown career is just incredibly exciting for me. And everything that we've set up so far at Oakland University as far as what the program's going to be makes me even more excited to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you spoke very briefly about making the transition from player to coach. What is that transition like for esports? Because we know that in traditional sports, usually that transition takes a much longer time. People aren't going directly from, you know, the field of play into coaching unless you're an absolute savant. In terms of esports, is that more common, seeing somebody go from a player to a coach so quickly, or did you feel like coaching was more of your calling even than playing was?
You know, when I was playing the entire time, I always had kind of a voice for the team. I like to be the shot caller on the team. If you're familiar with esports, that was kind of my role in the team. And so it was almost a natural progression to move into coaching. And I think in esports, the lifespan of a player is shorter generally than, let's say, a football player, maybe 10 years for them. For us in esports, it's probably 2 to 4 years as an average. You know, it's much lower, and you'd be lucky to even get that many years. So for me to transition into a coaching role, it just felt very natural for me. I've always been a confident speaker, and I feel like a leader. And for me to move into a coaching role just felt, like I said, very natural.
Yeah, and so now that you're in the role, you've officially gotten the gig at Oakland University. You're also a local guy. You grew up not too far from Oakland as well. What is sort of your vision for the esports program there? Because there's not just League of Legends. There's also going to be Rocket League and Smash Ultimate as well. Are you looking to take a more hands-on role with those esports as well, or do you feel like you'll assemble more of a team to handle those esports?
Right. So the role of an esports head coach has a lot of different parts to it. Specifically coaching the game, I think our program would be better served to have other individuals coach those specific games, like you mentioned, Rocket League and Smash. Now, I feel very confident to go ahead and coach the League of Legends team if that's what we require, but I think it will better serve the players if we have other individuals join the program. I'm looking to build a team to be able to help those other games and those other players.
You're listening to CheckpointXP On Campus, your number one resource for collegiate esports and more. And we're right now talking to the newly appointed head coach of Oakland University's esports program, Carl Leone. And Carl, League of Legends is one of the only esports going on right now from a massive league point of view. There's a lot of small sort of amateur events going on, but that's one of the big pro leagues that's still going on. Overwatch is another one that has resumed amidst this ginormous, coronavirus crisis. What is your view on esports as it pertains to where we are right now today? Because there is no traditional sports going on. Is esports uniquely positioned right now to sort of push itself into the mainstream or the pop culture right now?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, not just esports, just gaming in general. Everybody right now is stuck at home, self-quarantining, and gaming just lends itself very well to that. I'll give an example. People stuck at home right now who are already into gaming can still connect with their friends, play games with them, talk with them on a day-to-day basis. So it essentially doesn't break up your friendships and your social life in some sense for gamers. So I think for gamers in general right now is actually a pretty okay time. We're trying to make this work given the circumstances. And in esports, like you said, League of Legends, Riot Games still going on, still participating. Of course, it's online. I think that's a great opportunity for us to still have competitions go on and still have everyone be safe. I think it was the right measure for traditional sports to shut down and stop participating. But esports, like you said, can continue, and that gives a lot of viewership for everybody who's stuck at home. It's a good entertainment resource.
Yeah, and so lastly, I just want to ask you, as you begin to flesh out the program at Oakland University, in terms of what you're looking for in a player, collegiate esports, from a operational standpoint, is not very different from the pro scene. If there's a student out there who is looking for a school in the fall to join, they want to be a part of an esports program, what would you say to that student to get them to come to Oakland University?
Well, to have them come specifically to Oakland University, or to give them like a tip to have them move forward?
No, specifically to your program.
Well, I can tell you just the program that we're going to have set up, we have a partnership with the Renegades professional team, and that will lend itself very well to any prospective player, any esports player who's trying to come in. Will have access to that team. Renegades, for example, has a Rocket League team, and we intend to be able to contact them when needed if we want to get some advice from those players. So if you're a Rocket League player looking to come to Oakland University, that's a completely unique experience that you'll have access to. And then for the other sports, as far as League of Legends and Rocket League, we have a lot planned. I'll tell you, my experience with League of Legends will lend itself well to any League of Legends player looking to come in. And for Smash, we have a lot planned. We have a lot in the works. And of course, I can't get into any specific, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a great program, and they can contact me directly and we'll talk about it.
Coach Carl, that's the new name now. That's what we're going with. Coach Carl Leone of Oakland University is our guest today. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Be safe as well to you and your family. And we're going to have more coming up on Checkpoint XP on campus, so make sure you guys stick around.
Thank you so much.
We want to thank Coach Carl as well as the rest of the Oakland University Athletic Department for that conversation. If you want to find out more about Coach Carl as well as our conversation with him, you head over to our website, CheckpointXP.com, where you can get the full interview as well as just some more additional information on what Oakland University is doing and how they're building their new esports program. But we're going to have more coming up on Checkpoint XP on campus, so make sure you guys stay tuned. Hey, this is Norris from Checkpoint XP on campus, and this is your Collegiate Star League flashback. This time, we'll take a look at League of Legends, where the Renekton from Cleveland State University completely devoured Western Washington University.
The shockwave doesn't find much, and Shicep still trying to go through this one. Pomeroy going to be in some trouble. That's a double kill already. More to come off of this one is Pinhead Larry, the sole survivor. Wants to get out of this one, but Shicep looking for him, has the double buffs. That's the downtown binding for the triple kill, baby. And in 24 minutes, just shy of 25.
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Well, we have an unprecedented outbreak.
Thousands of us walking the earth.
We might die at any moment.
Because we're under attack.
In which case, we must act fast.
Doctors are trying their best.
Working long hours and
always sacrificing
their health to protect you.
Well, I'd very much like to thank them.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Wait a minute.
What's the prognosis?
It's still changing.
So we have a novel virus and no vaccine at this time.
What should we do?
We gotta get everybody else back into the houses. We gotta keep them there.
In other words,
this is our lockdown, right? What that means is
stay in your homes, make no attempt to reach loved ones,
and take a long nap. You can count me out.
You can count me out too.
Some people are immune to good advice.
You know what I mean?
Those idiots.
I just need to make sure you fully understand.
Let's recap.
I'm begging you.
Stay inside.
Wash your hands.
And make sure you
got 10 feet of personal space around you.
Stay away from me. Stay away from me.
I didn't hear you wash your hands.
So think on this, lads.
When you're home watching TV,
Think about the
Medical stuff.
Working for you. So I'm asking you.
stay home.
I'm in isolation.
just stop the virus.
All right, I'll do it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You stay classy, planet Earth.
What's up, guys? It's Kevin here, wrapping up this week's episode of Checkpoint XP on Campus. Last week, you guys saw Jacob's room, his crib, his little tour of where he's self-isolating in these very strange times. This week, you guys got me. So, this is it. This is my domain, my room, my boudoir, my quarantine scene. On the ottoman, got a little everyday carry box, my wallet, headphones, keys, my Kyber crystals. You never know when you're gonna need to pop one in. Right over here is actually one of my, we're getting right into it, my favorite little art piece that I have. This is a puzzle map of Disneyland. Moving on, obviously resident Star Wars nerd on Checkpoint XP on Campus. Forget what you heard about anybody else. Gotta have the lightsaber collection. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker, and me. Actually, I made this at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. Right over here, we got my buddy Buzz, my buddy Mickey, some literature, Halo lore, Star Wars EU, a Howard Stern book, and of course the pops. You gotta get the pops. You know, the main guys, the Star Wars marquee right here. Rey, Kylo, Big Mando. Woo! Nature Boy. This is my favorite pop, actually. And then we got Apprentice Mickey, Yugi the Cleaner, and then some miscellaneous ones. Frame some of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards, of course. 3 different artworks of the Dark Magician. And so, let's show you my little station. All right, guys, second attempt at recording this because first time around I dropped my tripod, and that was unfortunate because it broke, and now it's a whole new set of problems that I'm gonna have to deal with. But like I said earlier, my room is kind of just where I wanted that space to separate, to relax, and so now this is where I really lock in for the day. When I wake up and I cook my breakfast, do all my morning routine, shower, all of that stuff, I lock in here for several hours upon the day, whether it be for school, internship stuff, or to just play video games all day, which is usually the most popular choice. So here is my office. You got hydro flask, gotta stay hydrated. The headphones that were in the earlier part of this video that have now teleported here, and a little notebook for me to jot down to-do lists, any random writing that I may do. Right next to it, you'll see what it's plugged into in the big boy right here, 21.5 inch iMac from 2011. So yeah, this is kind of, I wouldn't even say it's a main workstation. It literally is just what I browse on the most though. I use this thing mostly, maybe 80% just for internet browsing because it's 9 years old. Right over here, we have the bane of my existence. This guy, this jet turbine engine PS4 Pro. Honest to God, I think it's the worst PS4 Pro that Sony has ever constructed. In history, in all of them. In all of the PS4 Pros that have been made and sold, this is the worst. It sounds like a Boeing 747 taking off every time I want to play NBA 2K. Right next to it, we have my baby, my beast, where I'm currently editing the first half of this video. MacBook Pro 16-inch from late 2019. It's a beast. It does absolutely everything I need it to do, and I could not be happier with it. Another BB-8 right here, buddy. Some more literature. The Little Prince. This is my girlfriend's favorite book, so I keep that with me. Some hidden Mickeys. A couple more books, Spider-Gwen issue, an overdue library book from the Ben Morse Library of Comics. Sorry, Ben. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's been my domain. This is my boudoir, my quarantine scene. This is where I've been hunkered down for the past couple weeks and will be for the foreseeable future. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Checkpoint XP on Campus, guys. Make sure you stay in the house, and we will see you guys next week. Peace.